Beall. My blog is Design Crush. I started it about 6.5 years ago now. I did it right alongside my full-time graphic design job for 4.5 years, so I kind of had two jobs at once. And then about a year ago, or I guess almost 2 years ago, kind of made the leap into full-time blogger, which I still can't really say with a straight face because it just sounds funny. But hopefully I have some tips and tricks and knowledge on growing your online community that you can learn from. So let's get started. All right, so expanding your audience. First thing first, focus your social media involvement. It's really easy to want to be everywhere. When I started blogging back in the dark ages, it feels like, the entire conversation was happening in the comments section. Now it's everywhere. There's Twitter, there's Pinterest, there's Facebook, business pages especially, and Instagram if you have a presence there. So what I found to be the best possible solution, because you cannot be everywhere at once in a genuine way, is to focus in on one or two that you're really, really good at. So for me, that's pretty much Pinterest and Twitter. I have the most followers on them. I feel like the audience that has gravitated towards me in those forums is maybe most closely matched with my aesthetic and my thoughts and whatnot. So it's okay to have a presence everywhere, but I definitely recommend kind of honing in on the places that you feel more drawn to. Okay, variety across all channels. So I'm speaking about social media channels, and what I mean is this. So you have a blog post, and say you have 5 images, and you're projecting to maybe Google+, Facebook Business, Twitter, Pinterest. Make each one slightly different. So maybe you're sharing your hero image on your strongest platform. So maybe you're sharing that, you're adding that to your Twitter status. Or maybe when you're posting on Facebook Business, you're choosing a different image. Because although you might think your whole audience is following you everywhere, because it's kind of easy to think that, like, okay, well, this person likes what I have to say, they're following me on Twitter, chances are good they're following me on Facebook too. That's not always true. So you kind of want to change it up across the board so that you're catering to the people who are doing that as well as the people who are only following you on maybe one platform. It just makes it a little more interesting. SEO. David touched on that really well this morning, so I'm not really going to say anything about it except that it's important. And if you do everything he said, then you're going to be doing it right. So I'll leave it at that. Sorry. Editorial calendars. I don't know how many of you have them if you're blogging or if you know what they are, but basically it means having a schedule, kind of like a magazine would. So for example, I have a very loose editorial calendar. The second Monday of every month, I share a music playlist because it seems like all the other bloggers do it on the first Monday, so I thought I'd mix it up and do it on the second and get a little bit more traction that way. The third Monday of every month, I do a roundup of the most awesome DIYs I see across the internet, so you can kind of get everything at once. And then on Fridays, I have a happy weekend post, which is a compilation of all the really cool products and art things that I see during the week that don't necessarily quite align with what a regular Design Crush post would be, but I still want to share with my readers. And then the biggest piece is probably that out of the 2 posts I do every day, the first one is always art or design based. So you can get really detailed with it as far as, what you want to do every single day, or it can be looser like that. But it gives you a goal and a focus, and that's going to come through when it comes to looking professional and gathering new followers. Okay, stand out, totally obvious, I know. But it's so important. You really need to use your own unique voice and speak in a conversational tone, take photos that, are in a style you really like, that resonates with you. Because if you're posting about Confluence and I'm posting about Confluence, if we're using our, our differences and our uniqueness, then they're hopefully going to come across as two totally different posts and be of interest to more than, the same audience. It's going to give it legs and arms that are going to reach beyond. Sorry, I can't see it. Contribute to the community. So yeah, that's what we're doing here today, essentially, right? I'm not here to gain all of you as followers, although that would be awesome. But, I think it's really important to give back and get out within any given area that you're in. So, I'm definitely gonna go home today and check out all the other speakers and whoever else I see on the Twitter feed that are tagging, the hashtag ConfluenceCon. And hopefully you guys are going to do that too, because I think there's a lot of space to collaborate and grow your audience that's close to home in that way. And I think it's important not to overlook that. Search engine ranking, similar to SEO, very much so. But I have a few kind of weird tips that kind of help you jack up in the rankings. And some of them are really strange. And David's probably going to look at me and be like, no, that's not even true. So the first one is, and maybe this is just a rumor. I don't think it is. But supposedly, say you have your domain that you've bought, so designcrushblog.com. Supposedly, if you purchase it for, say, 3 years as opposed to 1 year, that is going to help you go up higher in the rankings because the search engine's calculated as a more long-term investment. So
let's run this kind of like Ruth and I. It'll kind of be like one of those shows where a British man and judge.
And I'll stare right at you. Are you? Yeah. Okay, I can handle it. Okay, I can handle that. Good to know. I can pass that on. You guys, that's totally wrong. Disregard it. He also touched upon creating post titles that have keywords. It's really, really important. Thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. So, if you're writing about, so at the break, we're going to have Pie Junkie, right? So if you want to post about Pie Junkie, you're going to hopefully title your post Pie Junkie as opposed to I like pie. So you're going to be as specific as possible when it comes to getting your keywords out there because that's going to send everything up higher and that's going to get you more eyes on your post. I'll also talk a little bit about anchor text links, which I'm waiting to see the thumbs up or the thumbs down. Ruth is like, I don't know. It is complicated. It is complicated, but I think it's good to kind of err on the side of being as straightforward as possible. So we'll use the Pie Junkie example once again. If I'm writing my post about Pie Junkie that's titled Pie Junkie, within the text, the body text, I'm going to say, Pie Junkie is awesome. It's not going to be just Oklahoma City pies are awesome. It's going to be as specific as possible. And you're not just going to link to the word pie or awesome. It has to be Pie Junkie. So as specific as possible as you can get, it's going to help you. The last thing in that is making sure that your page, your site, is loading at the maximum speed possible. Think about it. Sorry, that's what I meant. Yes, as fast as possible. Think about it. If you visit whatever website, the Gazette, for example, if site doesn't load quickly, I know for me, if it takes like 5 seconds, I'm kind of out of there. I check out, and I'm probably not going to come back. So if you Google, fast loading speed or whatever on Google, it'll give you free sites that you can run your URL through, and it'll test it, and it'll tell you how fast it's going. So you can make sure that your readers are getting the best possible experience as far as that goes. Can I not read these? Have a marketing plan. And I guess that could be have a business plan. Mine's pretty loose. I don't even necessarily always know what I'm doing within the next 6 months, but the more thought out you can be as far as, even if they're really loose goals, like I would like to be posting 3 times a week. That's a goal, and it's something to keep you accountable and something to aim for and something to keep growth in mind. So I have tons of Post-its and everything kind of around my computer just to remind me that these are things that I'm aiming for. So it could be that simple, or it could be super detailed. Like by December, I want to be making, X amount of money. I want to be donating X amount of money. And you can really get into it. But all those little things, they help you have a grander picture, which in turn helps you project better to your readers. Okay, keep it simple. Excuse me. So a couple things you can do within blog posts to keep it simple and keep readers coming back. The first thing is to obviously have a really killer hero shot, which is your first shot photo in your post. That's the equivalent of your first impression. So you definitely want to put your best foot forward and show people instead of telling them why they should be visiting your site and why they should keep coming back. The second thing's really easy. You don't want any typos. The spell check button, it's a button, and it exists for a reason. All you have to do is hit it. Make sure you have all your theirs and your tos and everything in line, because the worst thing is, I don't have typos very often, but when I do, I get like 10 emails within like 10 minutes of when the post goes up correcting me. People love to jump on that stuff. And it also makes you look, less professional, like you don't know what you're doing. And the third thing is to just keep an overall kind of organic feel. Aaron and Tim talked about this earlier. You want your site to be easy for your readers to look at. And if somebody lands on your page through a link or whatnot, you want them to hang around to check out what's there, what do they like. And if they see something that's visually easy to digest, they're going to hang around and they're probably going to come back. Okay, install Google Analytics. Yes. So how many of you actually have Google Analytics installed on your site? Well, that's good. It's easy and it's free, and there's really no excuse to not have it. The biggest takeaway for me from Google Analytics, aside from specific numbers letting me know if my audience is growing, is to get to know the pool of readers that I'm already reaching. So I get to kind of follow their habits and see where they fall into the grand picture of Design Crush. I get to see what kind of content they keep coming back to and what posts are, consistently ranked the highest, which, if you want to know, is a post about s'mores that I did like 3 years ago, and I don't even have an explanation for that, but it's still the top ranked post. So you can kind of treat it as a science experiment and really dissect who your audience is. So it helps you target that kind of audience to grow. Write about hot topics. So this, I personally don't do this, but I know people who do, and it seems to be a good way to not only rank highly on SEO, but to kind of stay on top of current events. So I think David also touched on this a little bit. If you can basically hit up Google Trends and see what people are talking about, and if it's something that fits into the breadth of your site and the topics, why not jump on the train? Because when people Google Confluence, and if you're writing about it, you have a higher chance of them looking, and the more people look, the higher you go. So it's an easy thing you can do that's going to garner some attention. Build a brand. We've had a couple of people talk about this a little bit today, and I know Kathleen's going to talk about it later. I think branding can either be a really massive topic, or it can be pared down a little bit. And I keep staring at her now, like, is that okay? Is that okay? So I think, the easiest way to start to build a brand, if you're even going to do it yourself, is to kind of focus on the visual side of things. You want to have a logo that, represents who you are. You want to have, a couple reliable fonts that you use again and again, and you want to have a color palette. And as far as a visual brand, that's basically what it comes down to. So the idea behind building a brand is to dress for the job you want. The entire blogosphere is completely saturated at this point, and it's really hard to stand out. And one way to do that is to do just that, is to dress for the job you want. Go into it having your site look nice and clean already because you've hired Cooper House or you've talked to Kathleen. And that's going to make a big difference because you're going to look like you know what you're doing, maybe before you actually do, and that's going to get people's attention. Let's see here. So the goal is really to be memorable and inspiring when you're doing that. You want to give your readers reasons to come back, and you want to stick to a message of clarity and consistency so that everything is nice and neat and fits within the bounds of the site and the brand you've created. Be a creator. Okay, so this is probably more on the personal experience I've had with things. But so about a year and a half ago, a little thing went public called Pinterest. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. And Design Crush originally, for several years, was a curatorial site. So I would find things that were super interesting from other sites I was reading and whatnot, and I would share them, always with credit to where I'd found it, but that's pretty much how things worked. When Pinterest came along, literally overnight, my traffic dropped 75%. So I went from being at our highest point of 500,000 views a month to like 175. And it surprised me, but it didn't, because there's always something new coming along that you kind of have to account for and adapt to. But what it meant for me was that I had to become more of a creator instead of a curator. So I started doing projects and whatever else, creating new content that didn't exist already and putting that out there. And that's really what the entire internet is about these days. You really have to be adding to what's there, starting a conversation instead of just contributing to one that's already going on. And by switching to more of a creating site rather than curatorial, Design Crush was able to kind of move into that realm. So that's something just to always be thinking about, is that, like I said, start the conversation. That's the best possible place you can be in, because then everybody else is going to be sharing your links in your site as opposed to you doing the sharing. And that's kind of the golden spot. So with that said, happy blogging, and we'll have some questions if there are any.